Hello everyone, this is part 3 of What If Naruto Was the God of Fuinjutsu, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Having decided to wear the garments Tsunami and Haku gave, Naruto proudly wore his Uzumaki clothing. Much to everyone's surprise, even more glares, and every once in a while some stares, were headed toward his direction. The increasing in glares and stares befuddled both Sakura and Sasuke. What the fuck is he kidding, wearing such a flamboyant clothing of Uzumaki? Whispers and insults followed Naruto. Naruto just ignored them as best as he could, but as they walked through the Konoha, the insults just increased. It became so bad that it came to the point where Kakashi actually had to tell the team to just take to the rooftops and run to the tower. Kakashi looked back and saw that Naruto had his hood up, keeping his entire face hidden. Naruto, how are you holding up? Kakashi asked, concerned. I'm fine, Naruto said as he looked up and Kakashi saw his smile with its accompanying happy tone. How does he take it? Kakashi thought, frowning to himself. The team arrived at the tower and walked up to the Hokage's room. Looking up at the sound, Sarutobi saw Team 7 walk in. He immediately noticed the change in Naruto's outfit as Naruto lowered his hood. Hey, Hokage-sama, Naruto said with a friendly wave. Sarutobi looked at the clothes Naruto had on. He was surprised at the hand and shin guards, but what shocked Sarutobi the most was the symbols that were on the guards. This is bad, Sarutobi thought. After listening to Kakashi's mission report, he handed Kakashi a scroll and told him to go read it in private. Naruto, I need to talk to you, Sarutobi told Naruto. Naruto was confused as though why the Hokage wished to speak to him but turned around anyways and waited for the Hokage to speak as the rest of his team exited the room. Naruto, where did you get those items? Sarutobi asked with a slight frown on his face. Oh, the people from Nami no Kuni made the cloak for me, Naruto said, gesturing to the flowing fabric. And the guards came from an old ancestor of mine by the name of Azushio Uzumaki, Sarutobi finished. Naruto, I don't think it's safe to wear those out in public. Why? Also, how did you know who used to have these guards? Naruto asked, obviously shocked at Sarutobi's knowledge. Sarutobi just rubbed the top of his head, unsure of what he should say. After a small debate in his head, he decided to tell Naruto some part of the truth. Well, the Uzushiogakure and Konohagakure used to be in an alliance, Sarutobi said. The Uzumaki clan and Senju clan were a tight-knit family. How do you know this? Naruto asked, a small crease of a frown forming on his face. Sarutobi just stood up and looked out the window. His eyes had a distant look in them as he recalled the old memories from well over 1.5 decades ago. That's because I was the one who gave the order to erase all information of the Uzumaki clan and Uzushiogakure and seal it all away. Sarutobi turned around and looked at Naruto with a sad face and Naruto just stared at the old Hokage with an obvious shock on his face. Why? Naruto asked, unable to think of any reasons that would have caused the Hokage to seal all the information on his clan, his mother's now endangered clan. It was for the best. Sarutobi sat down as he quietly told Naruto. If you were found out to be from the Uzumaki clan you would have been hunted down. People feared your clan, Naruto, especially Azushio who was the clan head and Kage of the village. The man was known for making Fuinjutsu more battle potent to the degree that no one could get within 12 miles of him without being spotted. Because of this, other villagers began to fear Uzushiogakure and 2 of the villagers decided to take action and destroyed them. Sarutobi stopped for a moment and took a breath before resuming. If what I remember correctly, Azushio was the first to be attacked in such a degree that he should have died on the spot, but even with his mortal wound, he got up and defended his village to his dying breath. You want to how dangerous an Uzumaki is when angered, look no further than Azushio. Naruto's cerulean blue eyes widened a fraction as he took in all the new information. Right before he died, Azushio placed a seal on his body known as Ura Shisho Fuinjutsu, reverse 4-symbol sealing technique, and in one instant, only 400 out of the 3,000 ninja that were still alive escaped being sealed into Azushio's corpse. He was feared for his use of Ura Shisho Fuinjutsu and that was only one of the many things he used it for. Wow. Naruto quietly spoke. He created clones and after sealing the enemy inside his clones by triggering his seal, he detonated them. He even sealed people who tried to smuggle their secrets into the forests that surrounded Uzushiogakure. However, despite this kind of definite battle goals, he had a good heart and even had a child. Sarutobi noticed Naruto's eyes widen and quickly corrected himself. But it wasn't you, Naruto. His child was born years ago before you. If I remember correctly, I believe it was during the reign of the Nadaime Hokage. So you kept this information secret to protect me? Naruto said. Yes, Naruto, but it appears that all my measure didn't go as far as Nami no Kuni. Sarutobi looked down at his desk. I was planning on telling you about your clan when you were older, but it seems as though you can't wait. Naruto looked down at his feet guiltily. Wait, Sarutobi looked up as Naruto began to speak and saw Naruto looking rather uncomfortable. Who were my parents? Sarutobi bit his lip for he knew that the more Naruto knew, the more danger he would be in. I don't know Naruto. Sarutobi lied. But I can tell you this. Both of your parents loved you so much that they willingly gave their lives to keep you safe. This made Naruto smile. Now, Naruto, I need to ask. Do you want to keep wearing those items? Naruto looked thoughtful for a second or two and then smiled. I want to make my clan proud, so yes. Naruto said with his famous fox smile. I'll make sure Uzushio's sacrifice is not forgotten. I'll make sure everyone remembers the name Uzumaki. This rather proud statement made Sarutobi nervous, but he smiled at Naruto all the same. Okay, it's your choice, Naruto. That was when Sarutobi remembered something. Oh, and be careful with those guards you are wearing. Uzushio was also known for placing seals on armor, weapons, and clothes. Since those things once belonged to him, I'm quite sure he put some seals that I can only imagine. Naruto nodded his head and got up and left without a further word. After Naruto closed the door, Sarutobi frowned. Best be careful. I have feeling that things are about to get a whole lot harder, Naruto. Sarutobi softly spoke. In a large room, the only source of light came from candles that were stretched along the walls. Master, we have an update. A dark-cloaked man wearing what looked like a bird's mask spoke. An elderly man turned around as he leaned heavily on his cane. His body was covered in bandages, making him look like a weak old man, but that would be one mistake that one should not make around this man. Speak, Danzo said as he looked at his subordinate and the man gave a deeper bow. It appears that the target is getting more and more grasp on his family. The man looked up at Danzo. He seems to be accelerating through his training. Danzo nodded his head and looked at the candle. We need to make sure he is secure. Danzo looked at the root member who kept his head low. We need be sure that he is kept under watch without anyone noticing. If we can save from him, then we gain a strong weapon once more. The Anbu root member nodded his head obediently and vanished. Uzumaki Naruto, you will be the perfect weapon, but I first must keep you in check. Perhaps the council should be alerted to the Uzumaki's status. Danzo mused to himself. Danzo walked into the shadows, disappearing from view, the pat of his cane echoing on the rock floor of the deserted hallway. All right, I have a question for you. Kakashi said in a stern voice. The Chunin exams are being held here and I need you to tell me if you guys wishes to participate. The team looked at each other for a moment before giving their sensei a nod. All right, you have the rest of the day to yourself. Enjoy. Kakashi disappeared and silence rolled in, just to be broken by Sakura a moment later. Hey Sasuke, do you want to go and hang out? Sakura asked, but Sasuke just walked away without giving an answer. Naruto looked at dejected Sakura and suddenly an idea popped into his head. Sakura. Sakura looked at Naruto with slight irritation in her face for she was peeved that she was rejected by Sasuke once again. I'm planning on hanging out with Hinata's team. Want to join? Sakura thought about it and nodded her head. Alright, let's go. Naruto walked with Sakura right behind him. Naruto found teammate and gave a wave and smile. The group smiled back, all except for one. Hinata blushed into a bright red and shyly looked at the ground. So, it seems you guys had fun on your mission. Kiba said with a smile. Man, I wish we could have gotten a mission like that. I would hardly call almost getting killed fun, Kiba. Shino said dully as he took a bite out of his winter melon. Oh, come on Shino. Don't you want to be in a battle? It sounds super fun to me. Shino just shook his head as though he thought Kiba was being just childish, which he was actually thinking, and continued to eat in silence. Kiba just turned to his food and began to eat. So, how have you been, Hinata? Naruto said with an enthusiastic smile. Learn any new jutsu? Hinata at first looked at the ground and then back at Naruto. Yes. Hinata said. I've been developing my own jutsu, but its street still any needs some work. At that Naruto smiled even bigger and gave a thumbs up, causing Hinata's cheeks to turn into the deepest shade of red even to the base of her neck. Great, Hinata. I can't wait to see it in action. Hinata just blushed even more, if that was even possible considering the amount she blushed already. Suddenly, a scream echoed through the small dirt way, causing Naruto and his friends to immediately snap their neck at the place where the scream had come from. Look, I'm sorry, alright. I didn't mean to bump into you. Konohamaru said as he was roughly lifted off the ground by his shirt by a kid wearing makeup. Yeah, you're sorry alright, but you're about to be even more. He never had time to finish for he felt someone place a kunai to his throat. I would seriously suggest you let him go. A cold voice suggested him, actually more like demanding or ordering. He looked and saw that a blonde boy had the kunai to his throat and there were other people nearby, some of them posed to attack should it be necessary. Now, the blonde pressed. He dropped Konohamaru and Konohamaru ran to hide behind a rather irritated Sakura. Are you alright, Konohamaru? The blonde boy asked, his eyes still trained on the kid wearing purple makeup. At this, the little boy nodded his head fervently. Judging from your headband, you're here for the Chunin exams. Naruto stated, his eyes narrowing ever so slightly. I told you not to stir up trouble, Kankuro. A cold voice came from behind Naruto. A blonde Kanoiki that seemed to be with the makeup-wearing boy gasped and grasped an oversized fan she had with her, but Naruto wasn't worried about her. Naruto was busy looking into a tree that held a red-headed boy with black rings around his eyes. Temari, Kankuro, what are you doing? The red-haired boy said coldly in a flat voice. Gaara, we were just. The makeup-wearing boy that was called Kankuro started to speak but trailed off as the red-haired boy started glaring at him. Kankuro, shut up before I kill you. The cold statement shut Kankuro up and made him look at the ground. And you get the kunai away from his throat. The red-haired boy that was called Gaara instructed Naruto with a glare. Naruto smiled, though the smile didn't quite reach his eyes, and released Kankuro in a not quite so gentle way, placing his kunai back to its place his pouch. Well, it seems we have an interesting cast of contestants for the Chunin exams. Gaara disappeared and then reappeared right beside Naruto in a swirl of sand as he spoke in an emotionless voice. Gaara stared quite bluntly at Naruto and Naruto, feeling rather defiant, returned the stare with the same intensity. The two then broke off the staring and separated without a word. Naruto, what was that about? Sasuke asked, seeing the final bits of Naruto's conversation with Gaara. Naruto looked back and saw Gaara give him one last look before leaving. I don't know, but I think he is someone we need to watch out for. Naruto frowned a bit as he thought about what just happened and how the two obviously older kids listened to the red-headed Gaara as though they were afraid of him. With that, the group left without another word to go and continue the day off. Okay, tell me, which teams are competing in the Chunin exam? Sarutobi said with his fingers interlocked, resting them lightly on his desk that was piled with paperwork. I recommend Team 8 for the Chunin exams. Kurenai said confidently. They work well together. The only problem they should encounter is Kiba's need to prove himself in fights. Sarutobi nodded his head and moved on to the others. I recommend Team 10 for the Chunin exams. Asuma announced. Their teamwork is almost as good as their parents. I recommend Team 9 for the Chunin exams. Guy said with vigor in his voice. Their flames of youth are finally bright enough to blind their opponents and lead them to victory. Team 7 is ready for the Chunin exams. The other Jonins just stared at Kakashi as he spoke. Sasuke is an excellent combatant, Naruto is good at finding openings in his opponent and then exploiting them, and Sakura is the smartest of them all. So with those elements combined they'll make it through the exam. Sarutobi nodded his head and then dismissed the Jonins. Now, the stage is set for the Chunin exams. Sarutobi said this as he looked out his window with a slight frown creasing his already wrinkled face. But for some reason I can't shake the feeling that something bad is going to happen. One day later. What was with that genjutsu? Naruto asked, annoyed, as they approached the room they were supposed to enter. I believe it is a test to eliminate people early on, Sasuke said nonchalantly as he grabbed the door and opened it up. As the door opened, it revealed a room filled with ninja from various countries. Moreover, they were all looking at the newcomers, meaning the three, with fierce glares. Wow, a lot of tough-looking people are here, Naruto thought bemusedly as his eyes glanced through the crowd and saw Hinata's team approaching them. Hey, guys. Hinata, Kiba, Shino. The group smiled except for Shino who was busy looking at a bug, and Hinata just blushed as she saw Naruto staring at her, well toward her team but still toward her direction. Impressive looking bunch, right? Kiba just scoffed at the rather fierce glaring ninjas that sported scars of all sorts. We can take them, right Akamaru? Kiba confidently asked his fluffy white dog, Akamaru, and Akamaru gave a rather overly enthusiastic happy bark. Sasuke just looked around the room, scrutinizing each ninjas, until he was jumped on by Ino. There you are, Sasuke. Ino said, wrapping her legs around Sasuke's waist. I haven't seen you in so long. Get off him, Ino. Sakura screamed out, getting everyone's attention. Why don't you try and make me, Sakura? Ino stuck out her tongue and pulled down the skin around her eye in a mocking gesture, infuriating Sakura even more and causing Sakura to get all red in her face. You know, you should be a little quieter. People around here are a little wound up from the trip here. A sliver-haired man approached the group with a kind smile and a Konoha leaf headband. And the one thing they don't need is for a bunch of wet behind-the-ears academy students yelling. The group of 9 rookies just simply glared at the approaching glass-wearing man, excepting Naruto and Hinata, who was busy talking about the Chunin exams. And just who are you? Sasuke's cold voice asked as his onyx scrutinized the appearance of the ninja. I'm Kabuto, and if I was you, I would take the advice of someone who's been here many times before. The silver-haired ninja spoke in a patronizing voice along with some kind of air that somewhat resembled arrogance. Sasuke's eyes flashed with anger at the belittling statement thrown at him by the ninja and gave the silver-haired ninja a glare as the ninja's glasses shined with the light reflecting off its lens. Oh, how many times have you been here? Sakura asked, curious at the part of his statement where he said he had been here many times before. This is my 4th year participating and 7th time. Oh, then you must know a lot of stuff that could help us, wet behind the ears genin. Sasuke said this with a cold smile that never got to reach his eyes. Kabuto just looked at the Uchiha with an even bigger smile. Alright, I'll take pity on you fledglings. He pulled out a stack of cards. Here are my shinobi skill cards. They're where I've placed all the information I've gathered over the past 4 years. They also cannot be revealed without my personal chakra. Kabuto set one card down and put a finger on top of it. The card spun about for a bit and then revealed information about the number of teams from each village participating. This made a cold smile play around Sasuke's mouth as he thought of all the things he could learn. Do these cards also hold information on individual combatants? Kabuto looked at Sasuke, the light glaring off his rather shiny glasses. Yes, they can, but my collection is far from complete. So, tell me all you've got on Rock Lee from this village and Gaara from Sunagaku. Sasuke declared, and Kabuto seemed to be pouting. You know the names and the villages they're from. Kabuto pulled out 2 cards. That makes it too easy. He laid one card down and it began to spin. Alright, first we have Rock Lee. Let's see now, he has completed 20 D rank and 11 C rank missions. His sensei is Might Guy and his teammates are Neji, Hyuga and Tenten. This is also his first trip to the exams. He has some significant ability in taijutsu, but he seems to have nothing on ninjutsu or genjutsu. Sasuke just gritted his teeth in frustration as the information didn't really help him in figuring out the special techniques Rock Lee might throw at him. And as for Gaara, Kabuto trailed off. Suddenly, 3 silhouettes charged straight at Kabuto. Kabuto jumped out of the way quickly as one of the figures threw a rather powerful punch with a gauntlet arm. Missed me, Kabuto said with a slight jeer. But that was when Kabuto's glasses shattered into pieces and he threw up on the ground. Before the group could continue the assault, a giant explosion of smoke sounded off, drawing everyone's attention to the front. I will not have rough housing before the exams even get started. A giant man who resembled a bear grumbled. If I catch you doing that again, I'll throw you out of the exams, understand? The group nodded their heads fervently, the man obviously freaking them out a bit, or at least unnerving them. Naruto could understand their feelings. The man looked pretty tough, especially with all those scars that seemed to be plastered to his face. Now then, my name is Ibiki Morino and I'm your proctor for the first stage. Now, follow me to the exam room. The man instructed, actually more like grunted them. The group of shinobis, well the genins, followed Ibiki into the door that was locked before. Inside, everyone was told to take a seat on a designated desk while Ibiki walked to the board. You will be doing a written exam. Ibiki made a signal and the chunins sitting at the wall went and delivered out the papers. You start out with 10 points and I only have one rule. If we catch you cheating we will deduct 2 points and if we deduct all 10 of your points then you're going to be thrown out of the chunin exam. Begin. Naruto looked at the paper and saw that all the questions were too hard for any genin to answer. Naruto looked around and saw various people cheating to get the answers. That's when it hit Naruto. The questions are too hard for anyone to answer without cheating. Naruto thought as he frowned inwardly. Naruto looked and saw Ibiki smile as he saw the various people trying to figure the test out, some of them gripping their hair in frustration, some of them frowning very hard as they tried to answer the difficult questions. This test demands that we cheat and without getting caught. Okay, now that I figured out the true meaning behind this test, the question is, how do I cheat? The only thing Naruto had in his arsenal was cage bunshin and his Fuinjutsu, but his Fuinjutsu was useless in this situation. None of the seals Naruto made were for information gathering. That was when movement from Hinata caught his attention. She moved her paper into his line of sight. Naruto looked at Hinata, causing her to smile and blush into her deep shade of red. Okay, I have the information, but I need a way to distract these proctors so I can get the information I need. Naruto thought as he tried to figure out a plan. Naruto moved his hand inside his pocket and felt around him. He had a coin, a bottle of ink, one tag, and a smoke bomb. Naruto grinned at the items that he found in his pocket. It really pays to be the troublemaker, well ex-troublemaker. Alright, I've got the stuff I need to make the proper distraction. Naruto, then, took his stuff out of his pocket as careful as he could and went to work. Naruto drew a transference seal on both the tag and the coin with ease, much thanks to his well-practiced Fuinjutsu. Naruto looked at both of the seals he had just drew and smiled at his handy work. He placed the tag under his desk where no one could see and then propped his feet on the desk and began to flip the coin without a care in the world. What is he doing? Ibiki thought bemusedly as he watched Naruto flipping his coin which was beginning to catch everyone's attention. Ibiki walked over and took the coin away from Naruto. You are distracting the rest of participants. Now, I know that some people don't give a damn about their ninja career, but some of us do. Ibiki walked away, not noticing Naruto's smile. Ibiki put the coin on his desk and Naruto put his hands together in a tiger sign underneath his desk, hiding them from others' view. The seal on the coin slithered off the coin and attached itself to the desk. Alright, time to party. Naruto put his one and only smoke bomb at the seal under his desk and made another tiger seal. The kids watched as there was a white puff of smoke and followed by a loud bang and the entire front end of the classroom was concealed in a purple cloud. Ibiki. The chunins looked over at the cloud in shock and saw a large man walk out of the smoke obviously angered. He walked over to Naruto who was sitting with a rather flamboyant smile plastered on his face. You think that was funny? Ibiki growled at Naruto who just looked as though he was confused. Don't play innocent with me. I had just sat the coin down when a smoke bomb went off. And how or why would I do that? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow, keeping up his innocent look as he was completely cracking up inside at the little trick he played on the man. To cheat, of course. Ibiki looked down and an expression of shock quickly flitted across his face as he saw that it was still completely blank instead of a half-filled-out page that he expected to see. I'm sorry, Ibiki-sensei, but I had nothing to do with it. Naruto told the angry Ibiki in the most innocent voice he could muster. Naruto stood up and let Ibiki search him and his desk. Ibiki growled in frustration as he didn't find even a shred of evidence that could have pointed Naruto as the culprit. May I sit down? I really need to fill out my answer sheet. Naruto asked with the same innocent voice. Ibiki glared at Naruto, but as he had no evidence to accuse Naruto of cheating, allowed Naruto to sit and continue the test. Naruto glanced at Hinata, who just smiled as she had her paper out of Naruto's line of sight once again. Naruto filled out the answer, recalling Hinata's answer sheet that he got a peek at during the disruption. Just as Ibiki called time, Naruto filled out the last answer, the 9th answer. Now, on to the 10th and final question. Ibiki announced loudly, and few groans echoed here and there around the room. Now, I have another rule. You can choose to leave and try again next year, but if you stay and get the answer wrong, then you will never be able to take the Chunin exams again. Ibiki finished with a cruel grin on his scarred face. Everyone just stared at still grinning Ibiki with obvious shock plastered on their face. Now what do you choose? Ibiki smirked sadistically as his eyes took in the frightened and shocked expression that were on the genins' faces, some of them having jaw hanging down low. That final question was weird. Naruto told others as he scratched the top of his head. Yeah, but I still can't believe you set off a smoke bomb in the exam room. Sakura said, a small crease forming on her forehead. It worked, at least. Naruto put his hands behind his head and smiled as they walked with their new proctor Anko. Besides, it was awesome. Other than the fact that when he put my coin on the desk a smoke bomb exploded, he had nothing else to support his suspicion that I caused the smoke bomb. Yeah, but if he found out that you did do it, then you would be in so much trouble. Sakura looked at Naruto with a stern look on her face. Suddenly, she stopped talking along with many other students, as they realized which training ground they were at. Welcome to the training ground 44. Anko smiled sadistically at the group. Also known as Shino Mori, Forest of Death. We're back. Denpa shouted out when they entered a small hut, and he was rewarded with a smack on his head by Ishiki. What was that for? Denpa complained. You don't need to yell, Barker. Ishiki frowned at childish Denpa. Denpa started to defend himself, but before the two brothers could go at each other, a cough caught their attention. They turned on a dime and gave a formal bow to an elderly man. How did it go? The elderly man asked as he sat down carefully. It went okay. Denpa answered as he leaned against a tree. The items were delivered to the Uzumaki as you wished. Excellent. He looked at the two with a gleeful smile. And how is the Uzumaki? Denpa and Ishiki looked at each other and smiled naughtily. Don't worry about him, Ishiki told the old man with a mischievous grin. We're keeping an eye on him. Denpa chimed in with Ishiki, an equally mischievous grin on his face. Then perhaps the Uzumaki clan does have a chance to return. The old man was then sent into a fit of cough which subsided after a while. Perhaps you should go inside and wait. Ishiki walked over and picked up the old man. There is no reason for you to stress yourself out. Denpa walked over and helped his brother pick the man up. The two escorted the elderly man inside the building and sighed. He doesn't have long left. Ishiki spoke and received another smack from his brother. You think I don't know that? Ishiki just looked at the ground. We just have to hope that we can get the chance to talk to Naruto and bring him here. Denpa nodded his head and walked with his brother to the woods once more. Naruto and his team entered the woods and felt a strange sensation of being watched. This is just creepy. Sakura shivered as a strange cold feeling nipped at her. Don't worry, we'll be fine. Naruto told her in attempt to reassure her as he walked forward and looked into the dark forest. What's wrong, Dobe? Scared, Sasuke teased Naruto, who just glared back at his teammate. Suddenly, the entire team heard a loud howl like a ghost coming from the forest. Naruto looked behind him and saw Sasuke give an involuntary shiver. What's wrong, team? Scared. Naruto laughed as he walked into the forest with Sasuke glaring at him, but unbeknownst to the three genins, three mysterious figures were watching their every move. Naruto was separated from his because of a little issue that came up. After relieving himself on the ground hidden by bushes, he turned around and came face to face with a giant snake. Naruto's eye narrowed as he saw the snake look at him. Just as the snake lunged, Naruto created a cage bunchen and had it throw him into the trees nearby. The snake swallowed up the cage bunchen, making Naruto smile despite the fact that the snake turned towards his direction. The snake opened his mouth and gave a very low hiss as smoke came out of his mouth. Good thing I packed some Shokyaku Fuinjutsu. Naruto thought just as the snake began to thrash around until it erupted into a cloud of smoke. Summoning. Naruto realized just then, and that was when Naruto started to get a bad feeling in his stomach. What's wrong, Sasuke-kun? The snake-like man that stood before Sasuke and Sakura jeered at Sasuke. Is this the extent of the Uchiha clan's power? Sasuke gritted his teeth in anger and a giant jet of flame came roaring towards the snake man who easily jumped out of the way. Orochimaru, for that was the name of the snake man, looked up and frowned for a second for a reason unbeknownst to Sasuke, but quickly smiled. Well, I thought you would be in my snake's stomach by now. Orochimaru spoke and Sasuke was confused as to who he was talking to. So that oversized reptile was yours. Naruto appeared out of nowhere and stood before Orochimaru and his team. He looked behind him to see his team battered and bruised. Did you do this to them? Naruto asked menacingly, much to Sakura and Sasuke's surprise. Orochimaru chuckled at the tone in Naruto's voice. So what if I did? Orochimaru taunted. Naruto glared at him and Orochimaru thought for just a split second that he saw the Kyuubi inside the Jinchuriki's eyes. He was right. Naruto's cerulean blue eyes were turning into red slits and Sasuke felt the feeling he had felt on the bridge begin to pour off of Naruto in huge waves. Sasuke, get Sakura somewhere safe. Naruto hissed at Sasuke between his gritted teeth. Then, Naruto jumped off the branch and headed straight for the snake that Orochimaru had summoned. Orochimaru smiled and spat out a long sword and swung it through Naruto, but found that it was just a clone. Orochimaru turned around and saw 3 more Narutos charging at him, but Orochimaru simple cut through the clones once again, his sadistic smile getting even bigger. You're using cage bunchins for 2 reasons. Orochimaru stated rather amusedly, making Naruto curse. 1. In the hopes of distracting me enough for your friends to get away. 2. To scout me out and then perhaps come up with a counterattack. But let me just tell you one thing. Neither of these ideas are going to work. Sasuke suddenly came out of nowhere with his fingers in the tiger seal, his blood-red Sharingan blazing. Sasuke, don't. Another Naruto came out of the tree and started to run towards Orochimaru and Sasuke. Kaiten, Gokakyu no Jutsu. Sasuke spat out a large fireball, managed to get Orochimaru, and slammed him into a tree, catching the tree on fire. Naruto finally caught up with Sasuke who just glared daggers at the blonde. I don't need you to protect me, understand? Sasuke continued to glare at Naruto who was just staring back at him with a confused expression. That doesn't matter. You're hurt. I can buy you guys enough time too. Suddenly, Orochimaru's blade came sailing through the air and plunged Naruto directly at his side, almost piercing Naruto's heart. Naruto coughed up blood as he looked through the smoke and saw Orochimaru emerge from it unscathed, not counting his burnt shirt. You should pay attention, Naruto. Orochimaru sneered at the blonde. Naruto just glared at Orochimaru as he was lifted off the ground by Orochimaru's inhumanely long tongue that held the sword. Orochimaru then swung the sword along with Naruto and Naruto sailed through the air into a tree, getting knocked out cold. Naruto began to plummet towards the ground, Sakura barely catching him before he fell to his death. Sasuke glared at Orochimaru who was smiling even bigger. You certainly have grown into a powerful ninja, Sasuke-kun. I have to go now, but I'll leave you with a gift. Orochimaru slapped his hands together and his neck stretched out at an alarming rate. Before Sasuke could dodge, the elongated neck appeared right next to his and Orochimaru's teeth sank into his neck. Orochimaru pulled back and saw that the black mark was appearing on Sasuke's neck. Sasuke gripped his neck as pain shot through his entire body, screaming out in pain. Sakura laid Naruto on the forest floor as carefully as possible before jumping at Sasuke. She grabbed Sasuke before he could fall head first to the ground. What did you do? Sakura asked in a frightened voice as the snake man just laughed. I gave him a gift. Orochimaru just stepped back into a tree and began to sink through the bark with a twisted smile on his face. Sakura felt Sasuke go limp in her hands but still breathing. She put Sasuke's arm around her neck before jumping down where Naruto was and placed in the hollow-out tree next to Naruto. She went to check up on Naruto and found that his injury was gone. That's not possible, Sakura thought. There is no way someone should be able to heal that quickly. Sakura took off Naruto's cloak, vest, and shirt, and found out that there was not a single injury left. I'm positive that he got hurt. After searching Naruto for any sign of injury and failing, she turned her attention to Sasuke who was shaking like he was running a fever. Hold on, Sasuke. I'll go and get water. Sakura told Sasuke softly. Sakura left and returned several minutes later with some water in some bottles. She poured the water onto a rag and draped it over Sasuke's head to keep him cool. I guess I'm taking first watch. Sakura looked out the hollow tree, not seeing the eyes that were watching her every move. Team 8 had the best luck of all. When they started, they made a trap. Luckily, the first team they caught had the very scroll they needed. Hinata was looking at picture and was smiling at it when she heard someone approaching her. She quickly put the picture away and looked to see Shino walking towards her. What are you thinking about? Shino asked with his usual stoic face. I'm just wondering how Naruto and his team are doing. Hinata blushed as she looked at the water and saw her reflection. Don't worry about them. Shino sat down next to Hinata while he looked at the ground for some bugs. If I know Naruto and Sasuke, they're not going to give up easily. Hinata smiled at her friend who just got up after seeing no bugs and went to go look for some. Hinata looked and saw that Kiba was lying down against a tree with a smile as Akamaru ran around him. Please be safe, Naruto-kun. Hinata prayed in her mind. Sakura was thrown to the ground by the Oto meaning sound nin named Zaku. Not minutes after Sakura came back with some water, she and her unconscious teammates were attacked. At first, she was captured by her hair by the female of the attacking, but Sakura quickly took out a kunai and cut it off. After that, she managed to hold her own against the team with some buncheons, but after she managed to land on Zaku, he quickly punched her off his arm. Rock Lee came out of nowhere to help, but Dosu managed to incapacitate him by sending a sound wave into his inner ear, rupturing his eardrum. Sakura watched as Kin approached her with a grin on her face. I guess it's time to end this. Sakura spoke softly. No sooner had those words left her mouth, the entire area was shrouded in dense and evil chakra. They all looked back to see Sasuke standing on his own 2 feet with Sharingan activated and surrounded in purple chakra. Sasuke looked at the people in front of him as black marks traveled up the left side of his face. He looked and saw Sakura beaten, battered, and bruised. Sakura, who did that to you? Sasuke's voice was thick with anger and rage. Zaku smiled despite the power he felt pouring off of Sasuke. I did. So what? Zaku immediately regretted saying anything as Sasuke vanished and delivered a swift brutal punch to Zaku, causing him to fly into a tree. Dosu and Kin tried to go and help their teammate when Sasuke began to speed through hand signs. Kaiten, Hosenka no Jutsu. Sasuke spat out tiny fireballs that went straight towards the 2 Oto nin. The 2 dodged, but Kin became the unlucky target of Sasuke's kick. Sasuke looked at his hands and began to giggle like a maniac. All this power is just flowing through me. Sasuke looked at Dosu who laid his scroll on the ground. Spare me and my team and you can have the scroll. Dosu begged. Dosu watched as Sasuke just shook his head. Sorry, too late. Sasuke began to approach the 3 nins, but was stopped when Sakura hugged him from behind. Please stop, Sasuke. Sakura cried into Sasuke's back as the 3 ninjas took their chance and escaped leaving behind their scroll. You won now, please stop. Sasuke looked at her and seemed to calm down as the purple chakra and black markings disappeared. Sasuke stumbled a bit after the sudden release of his power. Sorry, Sakura. I guess I kind of lost it there for a second. Sasuke told her but thought about something else. All that power coursing through me. It was amazing. Whatever that snake did, it made me stronger. The 2 of them heard a groan and looked to see Naruto sitting up rubbing the top of his head. Naruto looked around and saw that he didn't have his vest, shirt, or cloak on. What happened? Naruto looked between Sasuke and Sakura and right before Sakura could speak, Sasuke shook his head and mouthed the words, "Don't tell. We had to check your injury, Naruto. That's why your top clothing is off." Sakura looked at Naruto with a smile. Naruto looked around and saw Sasuke pick up the scroll that the Oto nins dropped. What's that? Naruto asked as he stood up and put his clothing on him. It's our ticket inside that tower. Sasuke told him with a smirk. Sasuke proudly showed his team the other scroll they needed to complete the test. Naruto jumped with excitement, Sakura smiled, and Sasuke just shrugged his shoulders. One step closer to my revenge. Sasuke thought. Unknown location. So have you located the Uzumaki? A mysterious figure asked in a deep voice. Yes. Apparently, he is in Konohagakure. A man answered respectfully. The name of that village seemed to bring anger into the mysterious figure. We can't just approach the village. We would have to be careful. The figure stood up and started to pace. We have to wait until he is completely alone. Then, he will be ours. The figure punched a nearby wall and the entire wall crumbled away, revealing an Uzumaki symbol on a flag with blood and burns all over it. I'll make sure that this time when I kill you Uzumaki, you will stay dead. He grabbed the flag and ripped it off the wall and set it on fire. He watched it with cold eyes as the flag slowly burned into ash. Naruto and his team were running through the forest, watching every step they took. After Naruto managed to get dressed, the group turned to Rock Lee, who was still out of it. They stayed with him until he finally woke up. They asked him if he could stand, to which he jumped into the air screaming about the flames of youth. Before they could ask if he could make it back to his team, he ran off. When three figures ran across their path, the three tensed, but after taking a closer look, Naruto saw that it was Hinata's team. Sasuke and Sakura tried to stop Naruto, but he continued to run towards the three with a smile. Hey guys. The entire team turned on a dime and entered different stances. Whoa, you guys sure are jumpy. Naruto slowly backed up with a nervous smile. Sorry, but this is a test where it's every man for themselves. Shino told the blonde as bugs came out of his clothes. Even Hinata kept her distance, but still gave Naruto a slight smile, blushing profusely. So you guys don't trust me. The group simply tightened up their stances. Judging from how you're not attacking, I would go as far as to say that you have all your scrolls. Kiba's facial expression was all Naruto needed to confirm his suspicion. Don't worry, our secret is safe with me. My team was just going to the tower as well, how about we join together? You know, safety in numbers. Oh, and how do we know you don't plan on stealing our scrolls? Shino asked. Naruto reached into his pocket and produced both scrolls. Why would we? Naruto asked. Sasuke and Sakura suddenly came down from the tree and Sakura sent a punch to Naruto in the head. What are you doing? Sakura screamed at Naruto, who was slightly off from the punch. You don't let the enemy see what you have. Teammate just watched in amusement as Sakura continued to shake Naruto like a rag doll. Hinata then did the same thing, revealing that they had both scrolls. Hinata, why did you do that? Kiba said in a horrified voice. Because NA Naruto has a point. Hinata stuttered as she looked down at the ground while pushing her fingers together. It would be safer to travel together. Kiba was going to speak once more when Shino spoke up. It is a logical idea to band together. Shino looked at his two teammates and watched as Naruto picked himself off the ground. Cool. So it's decided we'll go to the tower together. Naruto began to walk towards the direction of the tower with a smile on his face. The group walked towards the tall building, but each one was watching the other except for two. Naruto was looking at the tower and Hinata was watching Naruto with a bright red blush. After reaching the tower, the teams opened the scrolls to find a different person popping out of the scroll in front of them. For Team 8, it was Kurenai, but for Team 7, it was Genma. They told the Genins what the meaning of this test. After waiting for a little longer, some more teams began to file in. Then Sarutobi appeared and looked at the group, who were all battered and covered in dust. Now, before we move on to the next part of the Chunin exam, if there is anyone who doesn't want to continue, please speak now. Sarutobi watched as several people raised their hands and left the tower. Now, we may begin, but since we have such a large group this year, we will be splitting the last test of the Chunin exams into two parts. This got many groans, but after Sarutobi raised his hand he continued. Now, this test is to see what you've learned and how well you can beat your opponent. I will leave the rest of the explanation up to Hayate. Hayate did just that and explained the rules to the participants. Does everyone understand the rules? Hayate looked around and saw various people nod their heads. All right, we will now see who's going up first. Everyone looked up at the screen and saw different names run through it until it finally stopped at two names. Zaku Abumi vs. Naruto Uzumaki. Hayate stated loudly. The teams began to leave the area when Naruto looked over and smiled at Zaku, who just glared at him. Is the participants ready? Hayate looked from Zaku to Naruto, who both nodded their heads. All right, begin. Hayate jumped back, and good thing, because no sooner had he said those words Zaku raised his arms up, showing Naruto his palms. Zankua, decapitating air wave. Naruto watched as wind pressure was being blown towards him and other cage bunshions that he created. Zaku saw and heard the explosion as the pressure wave managed to hit its target. 1 down, 2 to go. Zaku stated proudly with a smile. Saku turned, but had to duck when he saw Naruto went for a kick to his head. Saku jumped and swung his arm, facing Naruto, but then, Naruto pulled out a red seal from his pouch. If I didn't dodge that, I would have lost a lot more than this match. Naruto smiled at Saku. I would love to know how this is done. Naruto looked at the red seal he had just pulled out, causing Saku to frown even more. Well, if you like that, then you'll love this. Saku began to absorb more air pressure. Sankukyokua Extreme Decapitating Air Wave. Saku fired off a much larger version of his previous attack which soared towards Naruto, and Naruto could have sworn that he heard the very air around him getting cut. Fuinjutsu, Shokyaku. Naruto shouted loudly just as the shock wave came within a few feet of him. The tag exploded and shot out a flame stream, but that was Naruto's mistake. As soon as the flame stream hit the pressure wave, it was blown out. Naruto's eyes widened as he was hit with the attack full force. The people behind Naruto were forced to move out of Saku's blast or suffer whatever punishment that done to Naruto. Saku began to laugh mirthfully as the smoke began to filter out and everyone saw Naruto lying in a crater, blooded and hurt. I win, you weakling. Saku walked over, but was stopped when he heard a noise. He looked up and saw another Naruto falling towards him. Saku raised one of his arms and fired his pressurized air blast, but Naruto created a shadow clone that pulled him out of the way just in time. Naruto landed on the platform where the other participants awaited their turn. Naruto pulled off his cloak and threw to Kakashi, who caught it. Keep it safe, sensei. I don't want to trash it. Naruto told his sensei as he jumped down to the floor below. Now where were we? Saku gritted his teeth and raised his arms once again. Oh yes. Now I remember you losing. Naruto smirked at rather angry Saku. Naruto charged just as Saku launched another attack. Naruto moved out of the way from the air blast, but still received a cut to the side of his face. It would appear that he controls air pressure with those pipes on his hands. Naruto created 4-cage bunchen. I need to find a way to plug those holes up. Naruto sent the clones in to try and get close to Saku to allow Naruto to make his long-range abilities ineffective. Saku saw this and jumped backwards, blasting Naruto's clones away. You can't beat me like that. Saku smiled as he took aim at Naruto, who smiled. What does he have to smile about? Saku decided it didn't matter and blasted Naruto, but the Naruto he hit turned into smoke. Saku turned around and saw Naruto smiling at him. Saku turned around, already charging his air pressure, but Naruto grabbed his wrist. Saku fired, hoping to blow Naruto away, and it started to work, but before Naruto flew away, he reached up and wrapped his hand on Saku's neck. Naruto flew into the wall, leaving behind an imprint of himself in the wall. I told you, you fucking weakling, that you can't win against me. When the smoke cleared, everyone watched as Naruto began to laugh. But the problem is, I already won. Naruto held up his hand to make a tiger seal. Saku started to try and walk forward, but found himself unable to move. He looked down and saw black lines all over his body. You're probably wondering what's happening. Well, this was one of the very first seals I ever made. It paralyzes my opponent, leaving him vulnerable. To prove his point, 2 clones jumped from behind Saku and punched him in the face, sending him to the ground in a heap. You've lost. Naruto approached Saku and pulled out a kunai and held it to his throat. Winner, Naruto Uzumaki, hey, it announced as everyone else got a good look at what Naruto could do. Damn, he used a kinjutsu with such ease, and he can use Fuinjutsu. Baki was watching Naruto walking up the stairs with his hands in his pockets. Just what is Konoha teaching their ninja? Baki looked down and saw Gaara watching Naruto's every move. Looks like Gaara just found his prey for this thing. Baki just hoped Gaara wouldn't do anything until it was time. The teams looked and saw the screen beginning to go through names until it ended on Shikamaru versus Kinchuchi. What a drag, Shikamaru muttered as he slowly walked down to the floor with no hint of excitement in his steps. Let's just get this over with. What's wrong? Afraid to get beaten by a girl? Kin sneered at Shikamaru, who just yawned. Begin. Hayate swung his arm and watched as Kin threw some senbon at Shikamaru, who lazily dodged to the left, but still got stuck with a senbon in his shoulder. So you're doing something similarly to the cage shuriken no jutsu, shadow shuriken technique, Shikamaru stated as he pulled the senbon out of his shoulder. But instead of shuriken, you use senbon. This brought a frown to Kin's face. So you figured it out. Kin just reached into her pack and pulled out 3 senbon. But that won't save you from the sound. Shikamaru was confused by what she meant until he heard a bell ringing. Shikamaru covered his ears, but saw Kin shaking her head. That won't help you. It's already inside your head. Shikamaru watched as Kin split into 3. Now you can't beat me. Kin went to throw her senbon, but stopped. Kajime no Jutsu, shadow imitation technique, success. Shikamaru looked up with a smile. He got up and moved his right arm and watched as Kin did the exact same thing. Good. Now time to end this troublesome game. Shikamaru reached into his pack and grabbed a shuriken, but Kin did the exact same thing. Game, set, Shikamaru threw his shuriken and Kin did the same thing. Shikamaru leaned his head back as hard as he could, and Kin followed, but instead of hitting nothing, she hit a wall. Shikamaru let his shadow slide back to him as Kin slid off the wall, out cold. Match. Shikamaru began to walk up the stairs as Hayate called him as the winner. Naruto patted Shikamaru on the back as he walked by. Good job, Shikamaru. Shikamaru just yawned. Naruto turned back and saw the names of Sasuke and Yoroi on the board. Naruto turned and gave Sasuke a smile. Good luck, Sasuke. Sasuke turned and looked at Naruto for the briefest of seconds, then began his descent to the arena. Naruto was a little shook up from the look Sasuke gave him. What was that about? Naruto looked and saw Sasuke take up a fighting stance. Denpa and Ishiki were looking at the old man who seemed to be shivering from some unseen cold. The old man gave a wave to the two of them, and they politely walked forward. We need to find them, he said in an uneven voice. Find who? Denpa leaned in close with sad look on his face. The old man leaned forward and whispered into Denpa's ear. Ishiki looked and saw his brother's eyes widen in shock. When Denpa looked at the old man, he had a look of hesitation. Are you sure about that? Denpa watched as the old man nodded his head before closing his eyes and falling asleep. What did he want? Ishiki called out, only for his brother to look at him with a small smile. We need to go to Nami no Kuni. This was all Ishiki needed to know. Well, if that's the case then, we'd better get a move on. Ishiki threw his brother a cloak while he put his on. Let's go. With that, the two of them left the cabin and headed towards their destination. Kakashi decided to take Sasuke away to the hospital after his match to tend to him. The next match after that was Sakura vs. Ino, which ended with neither of them winning. Then came Kiba vs. Shino, and right off the bat, Kiba charged, which only got him trapped amongst Shino's bugs. After a while of the bugs draining his and Akamaru's chakra, they gave up. Temari and Tenten were up next, and it ended in one of the most twisted things Naruto has seen. After blasting away Tenten's weapons and slicing her up, Temari placed her fan right underneath Tenten and let her fall on her fan. The result was Tenten bending over Temari's fan backwards, then to add insult to injury, Temari threw the incapacitated girl towards the wall, only for Tenten to be caught by Rock Lee. That was most unyouthful. Rock Lee, for the first time, looked severely pissed off, but before he could do anything, Guy stepped in and restrained his student. Temari walked up the steps with a smile on her face, but as she was walking past Team 7, she turned to look at Naruto, who stared back at her, and for just a split second, Temari thought she saw his eyes turn red, and a giant fox towered behind him with a hungry look in its eyes. Kankuro looked at his sister, who suddenly looked white as a sheet. What happened? Kankuro watched as Temari turned to him. I get the feeling that he's just like Gaara, Temari said as she looked back at the arena screen to see that Kankuro was fighting a man by the name of Misumi. The fight didn't last very long. Misumi wrapped himself around Kankuro and snapped his neck, only for Kankuro to be revealed as a puppet. The real Kankuro was hiding in the bandages. Kankuro made a fist as his chakra strings were attached to the puppet. The puppet wrapped around Misumi and broke every bone in his body except for his neck. The next match made Hinata nervous, because she was up against her cousin, Neji. Naruto walked up and patted Hinata on the shoulder, giving her an encouraging smile. Hinata walked down to the arena with Neji scowling at her. What are you doing? Hinata looked at Neji, who shook his head. You can't be serious about fighting me. Hinata looked up and saw Naruto give her the thumbs up, and she nodded at him. She took a fighting stance while activating her Byakugan. Her eyes. She's not the same as before. Neji looked at Naruto, who smiled at him. Did he do something to help her? Neji didn't worry about it, and took up his own stance. Alright, begin. Neji and Hinata charged at each other. Neji threw a palm forward, but Hinata swiped it away with her own. Hinata did the exact same, but Neji deflected her attack. This went on for a good couple of minutes before Neji, instead of deflecting Hinata's attack, grabbed her arm and swung her to the ground. I told you, I'm destined to win this fight. Neji looked into Hinata's eyes, but dodged her chakra-laced hand. Neji's grip on Hinata's arm loosened, and she was able to get back to her feet. I don't care. I'll still fight. Hinata charged, but Neji jumped over her and landed on his feet. Hinata didn't need to turn her head to see Neji already throwing his hand forward. Hinata spun around on her heel and grabbed Neji's arm. She palm thrust at him, but he caught her as well. The two of them pushed with added chakra and were thrown backwards. Neji stopped and ran at Hinata, but instead of charging, Hinata stood her ground. As Neji neared her, Hinata threw her hand forward, but when Neji went to catch it, he felt his hand get sliced open. He jumped back and looked at his hand to see something that looked like a chain link fence sliced into his palm. Neji took a closer look at Hinata's arm and found that her entire right arm was dancing with sharpened chakra. She's coating her arm in sharpened chakra to cut into me, Neji muttered to himself. That could be a problem if she hits me with it. Neji ran at her, but this time, zigzagged towards her. Hinata followed Neji as he came closer and closer, but just as she threw her arm, Neji jumped. Hinata turned to face him, but Neji slammed his chakra-infused hand into Hinata's back, forcing her forward into a wall. Neji walked towards her until he noticed two pictures on the ground. Neji picked them up and looked at the first one to see Hinata standing with Hyashi, her mother, and Hanabi. He looked at the other and slightly glared and smiled at the sight. So this is why you're so brave, Neji said, showing Hinata the picture of Naruto and her at Ichiraku's at night, but the one difference is Naruto giving Hinata a kiss on the cheek, making her blush. Hinata's eyes widened as Naruto cursed. Hinata felt around her jacket and found nothing. Give that back. Hinata looked at Neji with a slight glare. I wonder if Hyashi knows about your little love affair with the village's pariah. Neji jumped backwards as Hinata slammed her hand on the ground right where Neji was. I said, give it back. This time there was danger in her words. If you want it, come and get it. Neji said this as he put the picture into his shirt with a smile. Hinata charged, doing the one thing Neji wanted, get angry. Neji dodged Hinata's thrusts and jabs, wanting to get her just a tad bit more angry. Hinata thrust forward with both hands, and that was when Neji took his chance. He ducked under Hinata's attack and threw his arms forward, nailing her in the stomach. Hinata coughed up a small amount of blood and was sent backwards. You're doing the very thing I want you to, Hinata, getting anger. The more angry you become, the more reckless you get. I just took my time and waited for you to make a mistake too bad. Hinata just looked at Neji and smiled. What do you have to be happy about? I may have lost and you may have hurt me, but I still love you, Nisan, Hinata said with a smile, but this seemed to only make Neji angry. I don't know what I've done to anger you, but I still care about you. That's why I pity you, because you live your life full of anger. Neji saw red and charged, even with Hayat telling him the match was over. Neji came closer and threw his arm, but it never connected, as a purple hexagonal barrier appeared between him and Hinata. Neji looked up and saw Naruto already jumping down with his hands together in a tiger seal. I think that's enough, Naruto stated as he walked towards Hinata. Neji charged at Naruto, who turned and ducked Neji's thrust, and he continued towards Hinata. Neji turned and went to attack, but found himself unable to move. He looked down and saw the same black lines as before. Naruto turned around and with some labored breathing. He walked over to Neji and took back the picture and gave it back to Hinata, who was picking up her family picture. I'm sorry, Hinata said with some tears. I was supposed to keep the picture safe and not let anyone see it. Naruto just patted her shoulder and picked her up as some medics came by to take a look at her. It's not your fault. I knew someone was bound to find out. Naruto smiled at Hinata. But I guess we'll just deal with the problem when it comes. Hinata nodded her head and walked out with Kurenai right behind her. You know, you two were made for each other, Neji said as he applied some chakra and broke out of Naruto's seal. You're both weaklings. I mean, look at you. You can barely use a Fuinjutsu without it consuming a great deal of your chakra. Naruto just chuckled and looked at Neji. It's funny how you're calling us weak, when Hinata nearly beat you, Naruto said as he watched Neji prickle up in anger. And how I managed to dodge and then place a seal on you to paralyze you. Neji was about to charge, but calmed himself down and looked at Naruto with his calm and calculated eyes. Sorry, but you're going to have to do a lot better than that to lure me in. Neji watched as Naruto shrugged and began to walk up the steps, but gave Hinata one last smile before she disappeared. Naruto. Kakashi yelled out with a wave. I just made it to see the last few seconds of Hinata's fight. I didn't know you two were going out. That was the point. Naruto looked up at Kakashi. What do you believe would happen if the village found out about Hinata and me? Kakashi just nodded his head. Not that it's any of my business, but how long have you two been together? Kakashi watched as Naruto began to think back. About 1 day before the team placements. Naruto said, leaning against the wall. She was the only one besides Sarutobi and a few others who actually tried to help me through Iruka's death. She managed to keep me from just curling up and dying. So I guess that's what got us together. Naruto watched as Choji and Dosu's names came up, and after Asuma bribed Choji with barbecue pork, Choji jumped down to the arena ready to fight. Alright, mummy man, I'm going to beat you and eat all the pork I can fit in my stomach. Choji yelled with fire in his eyes. We'll see about that. Dosu lifted up his gauntlet arm and smiled under his bandages. Hayate gave the go-ahead and that was when Choji put his hands together. Baika no Jutsu Expansion Jutsu. Choji called out as he inflated like a balloon. Choji then sucked his head, arms, and legs into his inflated body and shouted, Nikuden Sensha. He quickly began to roll at Dosu at a high speed. Dosu jumped out of Choji's way and watched as he smashed into a wall, making a hole, but Choji turned and came rolling back at Dosu. Dosu jumped out of the way again and watched Choji jam himself into the wall. Dosu jumped right next to him and punched his inflated body, but with no effect. This is sad, Dosu said as he brought his hand up with a tiger seal. Goodbye. Suddenly, the entire arena was filled with a high-pitched screech. Everyone looked and saw Choji laying on the ground, completely disorientated. Hayate named Dosu the winner as the mummified man walked up the steps. Rock Lee, at this point, was bouncing off of his feet in excitement as he knew his turn had come. His name and Gaara's appeared on the monitor. Gaara vanished in a swirl of sand and reappeared on the arena floor, looking at Rock Lee. Come on, let's get this over with, Gaara said with no emotion. Yes, I can now show my springtime of youth. Rock Lee jumped into the air with excitement. Gaara kept an emotionless face as he watched the excitable ninja jump and land in front of him. Gaara looked from Lee to Naruto with a murderous glint in his eyes. Hayate looked at both of the participants and raised his arm upwards. Begin, he said, and watched as Lee went right at Gaara. Lee threw a punch at Gaara's face, but a wall of sand erupted in between them. Lee turned on his feet and tried to deliver a swift kick to Gaara, but that was also blocked by the sand. Gaara looked at Lee and the sand lurched at him, trying to ensnare him. Lee began to jump backwards, trying to avoid the sand, but the sand was faster. It slithered underneath Lee and made him slip. When Lee looked up, he saw a wave of sand falling towards him. The sand hit the ground and exploded, but when the sand moved, Lee was nowhere to be seen. Gaara looked around until he saw his sand rise behind him to protect him. Gaara turned and saw that Lee had tried to punch him. Gaara watched as his sand swung Lee at the wall, but Lee spun around and landed on his feet. Lee pushed off the wall, leaving behind a small crater as he launched himself towards Gaara. Lee stopped as a wall of sand came at him, and he was forced to evade. Lee jumped onto the giant pair of hands on one side of the arena and looked at Gaara, who stared right back. How can I hit an opponent who is protected from attacks from any direction? Lee looked at Guy, who nodded his head, making Lee smile. All right. Lee jumped and took off his orange leg warmers, revealing weights on his legs. Does he think that by removing a little weight he'll be able to get past Gaara's sand? Temari chuckled at the thought. Lee removed the weights and sighed. Now I can move much more easily. Lee dropped the weights as everyone watched them plummet towards the ground, but when they hit the ground, everyone got the shock of a lifetime. As soon as the weights touched the ground, they made a pair of craters and caused the ground to shake a little. Gaara kept his eyes on Lee until he vanished. Gaara looked around for Lee, but the only thing he saw was Lee's fist moving faster than his sand could keep up. He looked around and saw his sand rise and fall with fist-sized holes punched through it in various places. Suddenly, the sand stopped moving, and Gaara looked around for Lee until he saw a shadow above him. When he looked up, he saw Lee spinning like a top, but before Gaara or his sand could react, Lee delivered an axe kick to the top of his head. Gaara was sent skidding backwards with some blood dripping from his head. That's not possible, Kankuro thought. Gaara's been hurt. The group watched as Lee smiled and looked up at Guy, who nodded his head once again. Lee began to unravel his bandages until they touched the ground. Lee then ran at Gaara and began to run circles around him. Gaara looked at the blurred images of Lee until he was kicked in the jaw. Gaara was sent skyward, but only a few inches. Lee glared a little and began to kick in rapid succession, but right when Gaara was at the right altitude for the move Lee was about to perform, pain shot through Lee's body, causing him to wince. Gaara saw this and began to spill out some sand, but before he could do anything with it, Lee wrapped him up in his bandages and began to spin towards the ground with great speed. Omote Renge, forward lotus. Lee shouted just before the two of them hit the ground. When the two of them did hit the ground, a giant explosion sounded out, and a giant cloud of dust and rock shot upwards. Gaara. Temari thought to herself, feeling little worried for her little brother. Such power. Naruto looked as the smoke began to clear to reveal Lee, who was slowly crawling out of the crater, and Gaara, who was sticking straight up with his head in the ground. I did it. Lee was about to lay back, when he heard chuckling coming from behind him. Lee turned around and saw Gaara rising out of the ground with sand pouring off of him, while wearing a very disturbing smile. Is that all you've got? Gaara sounded disappointed. I was hoping to play with you a little bit more. Gaara licked his lips. Lee just looked on as a wave of sand went straight at him. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.